Thank you for joining today's session. We will be getting started shortly. We do have a lot of folks signed up for today's session, and we want to give everyone a moment to log on and get connected so that we can dive into today's session. I do want to thank you all for joining us today. I am Jasmine Garrett here with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority. Today's session is an informational overview of the NJEDA grant and loan programs available to nonprofits in New Jersey. A quick housekeeping note, we do suspect that many questions will be answered in today's presentation. However, you are able to write in questions at any point during the presentation using Zoom's Q&A feature. It is one of our Zoom command options and will allow us to make sure we are able to get back to you and let others see these questions and answers as well. Today's session is being recorded and will be posted on our NJEDA and YouTube pages. The slides and other resources will also be available in the next few days. Now, to get us started with the presentation, I will shift things over to NJEDA's Senior Advisor of Arts and Culture, Barbara Bickart. Barbara?
Thanks so much, Jasmine. I just want to say welcome to the nonprofit community. Welcome to the arts and culture nonprofit folks. We are really excited. This is kind of a historic moment. Excuse me, I have this cold. We have been working together. I've been working with the business banking team, with the small business services team, to put this presentation together and to work to really make the information about the grants, the loans, there's even some bond information coming your way today, to make the information more user-friendly and accessible for the nonprofit community, because we understand that the needs are really different than those for bankers or big business folks, and that the language needs to be different in terms of how we do these presentations. So we've worked hard at that. Thanks for the folks who participated in our focus groups to help amend this presentation. It's a historic moment, so it's very cool, and I'm pretty stoked about that. I want to say that this is probably the first of these types of webinars that we will do to target the nonprofit community. In addition to that, please reach out. Let us know if you are a leadership organization or some kind of organization that would like to host a presentation either in person or host a webinar that is this full presentation, or maybe a smaller version of it where we just focus on the small business services products, or we just focus on some of the loans. We're able to do that. We're able to tailor what we do, and now we're ready to go and do more and more outreach to the nonprofit community. I guess the last thing I want to say is that you're going to be learning today about approximately 10 programs. These guys are completely experts and knowledgeable in terms of the details of these programs. Please reach out to them if there are things that you don't understand, or questions that you have. Reach out to them specifically about the products that they're talking about. The other thing is that what we'll be doing over the next few days is posting this presentation specifically on each of the program pages. So when you go into the EDA website, to the small business services, to the business banking services area, and you go to these specific programs, you can see this particular presentation posted on each of those programs. So you can revisit this deck and I think a recording as a resource. And I'm going to turn it over now to Lakeisha White, Program Manager of Business Banking. Thanks so much, Lakeisha.
Thank you, Barb, and thank you for that introduction. As Barb said, we are very excited to share this information with you about our grants and our loans that we do have available to nonprofits. And so as we are going through this presentation today, we just want to remind you to please use the Zoom Q&A feature to put your questions there. And so just in case, if you're not familiar with the New Jersey Economic Development Authority, we serve as the state's principal agency for driving economic growth, and we're here to help you to build a stronger and fairer New Jersey economy. So as a nonprofit, we are here to be a resource to help you in your endeavors in growing out your business. So here are some reasons why you would want to consider NJEDA as a funding source. If you are considering new equipment such as seating, lighting, if you're in the theater or any type of work or equipment that you need to purchase for your nonprofit organization, we are available for funding for that as well. If you're looking to hire new or full-time, part-time staff members, covering your general operating costs, purchasing a commercial real estate property, renting or leasing additional space for your organization, or if you're looking to expand your mission or program capacity into new areas, or if you have existing debt that you need to refinance, we can help you with refinancing any outstanding debt for your nonprofit organization. Other reasons why we want to consider NJEDA as a funding source is that we can support your endeavors through grants, loans, bonds, and technical assistance. And the great thing about our programs is that you can apply for more than one product at the same time and you can combine resources. So that's one of the things that we are going to share with you today, how nonprofit organizations have been able to benefit from our grants and loans and utilize the bonds and technical assistance. And so now I'm going to turn it over to Alberto. He is a small business services liaison, and he's going to share with you some great information about grant programs that we have available.
Thank you, Lakeisha, and thanks again, everybody, for joining us and taking the time to learn about all these resources that can definitely help your nonprofit grow. So keep in mind a few things as I do my presentation. These grants that I'll be talking about, they are stackable. That means that if you are eligible for all of them, you can apply for all of them at the same time. And they are open for-profits and, of course, for nonprofits as well. Okay. As a nonprofit, to qualify as a nonprofit, just keep in mind that your annual income and annual revenue cannot be solely based on donations. So you have to provide some kind of service or some kind of product that you receive revenue from. So again, just keep in mind that these are all open. They are all currently funded. So if you're eligible, I encourage you to apply. So the first grant that we'll talk about is called the Small Business E-commerce Support Program. This is a great resource for restaurants, retail stores, or personal care businesses. A retail store is as long as your business or somebody can walk in and purchase either a product or a service, it could be considered a retail store under this grant. Personal care businesses such as nail salons, hair salons, wellness centers, yoga centers, and of course nonprofits as well. Okay. So you do have to have a brick and mortar location for this grant. So it's not open for home-based businesses or home-based nonprofits. The great thing about this grant is that we partner with 7 different e-commerce consultants. They service different regions of the state. The intent with this grant is basically to get your website up to date. So we understand that especially since the pandemic, a lot of business has shifted towards e-commerce, and a lot of folks have not been able to basically keep their website up to date. So this is a great resource to sit with somebody that can help you work out a plan and get your website, the way that you need it. So basically, if you qualify for this grant, we pay up to $10,800. So you can sit with any of the consultants and work on your website. Next slide, please. So some of the benefits that you can get from this grant, or some of the solutions for your website could be simply to optimize it. You can create an e-commerce platform. If you have something that you need to sell or you want to create an online store, you can create an online ordering platform. For certain businesses, there's also the possibility to create like online appointments, like reservations, a digital marketing plan. So, bottom line, it's just a great resource to revamp your website. Okay. You can see some of the examples that we have as well on screen. These are just some of the, I believe, more than 400 different approvals that we had, different businesses and nonprofits that we've worked with. So, again, if it's something that you believe you can benefit from, I do encourage you to look further into it. Next slide, please. again, some other benefits, it creates a friendlier e-commerce platform. You can get help with their SEO, basically getting your business found. If you need to sell, as I mentioned, any merchandise, you have the possibility to work on that as well. And for some of the solutions that they'll provide, they'll also provide training, so you can continue to work on it by yourself. Okay. And again, the way that this works, there's no application. You actually contact any of the e-commerce consultants that we're working with directly. So, you basically choose who you want to work with, You do your homework, you see what type of work they do, what fits your business or your nonprofit's needs better. And you give them a call. You have a conversation with them. They are the ones who assess your eligibility, not us. So they basically let us know if you're eligible. And if you are, we cut them a check so you can sit with them and work on any of the solutions that you can benefit from. Next slide, please. The next grant, again, remember, if you have any questions, you can post them in the Q&A, okay? And we'll be try to be diligent about answering them. The next grant is the Small Business Lease Grant. So this is a great resource if you are, let's say, a home-based business and trying to move into a brick and mortar location, or you're just starting to start your business and found that location. If you already have an established business and you want to expand and open more locations, or if you're a developer, and you're trying to lease out commercial property, this could be used as an incentive. So lease grant, the EDA will basically pay 20% of your first and second year annual lease payments. Okay. The way to qualify is that you have to find a location that is at a street level. Okay. What does that mean? That it can't be like on a building on a second and third floor unless it also has space at a street level. Okay. It has to be at least a 5-year lease term. That's very important. Okay. So it can't be like a month-to-month or a year or 2 years. It has to be at least a 5-year lease term. And the space has to be at least 250 square feet of commercial space. So once you sign that lease agreement, we give you 12 months to apply for this grant. Okay, very clear, 12 months. If it's 12 months in 1 day, the system will not accept it. So you have 12 months to apply for this grant. Once you're approved, the EDA will cut you a check for 20% of your first year annual lease payments. After you make 12 months of lease payments, we cut you another check for 20% of your second year annual lease payments. And that's the grant. Okay. So to go over the things that to make sure that you're eligible, the landlord cannot have any ownership interest in the applicant. So that basically means that you cannot lease to yourself. And this is mostly intended for new leases. But if you do want to try to qualify with an amended or a renewed lease, the lease has to state that you're adding at least 250 square feet of additional space. So that's the only way that you could qualify with a renewed or an amended lease, considering that you would also meet the other eligibility criteria. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, if you can do one application per location, right? So if you have multiple locations under the same EIN, you can do one application per location. Just some logical things to consider. You cannot be in default with any other NJEDA or state assistance by the time that you start this application. This is simply information that will pop up in our system. If you have an incubator, let's say a business incubator, a high-tech incubator, a kitchen incubator, the operators of those incubators could be eligible to apply for this grant, not the members. Okay. And there is a wage and a time commitment to consider if you want to benefit from this grant. So basically, if you want to apply for this grant and benefit from it, you have to commit to pay your employees 120% of the minimum wage. All right. So this happens once you're approved. Okay. We don't look at what you're paying your employees now. If you're paying them more than that already, then that's not something that you have to be concerned with. But it is something that you need to consider, that for the duration of the compliance period, so the 5 years, you have to commit to pay your employees at least 120% of the minimum wage, right? If it's a business that has tipped employees, such as restaurants or such, then as you might know, the minimum wage is much lower than what it is for regular minimum wage. So the minimum wage right now, I believe, is like 15 and change. So 120% of that would be like 18 and change. I believe the minimum wage for tipped employees is like 5 something. So 120% of that would be 6 something. So again, that's a math that you have to do and, make that decision as your nonprofit, director or as a business owner. And the time commitment is that you have to commit to stay in that location for at least 5 years, which would be at least the duration of the grant agreement, of the lease agreement. One document that we do require is a tax clearance certificate, a business tax clearance certificate that's basically processed through the Treasury. Once you start the application, there's a great resource on our website that it's basically a document checklist. That's a PDF document that has clickable links, and in it, some of the steps you can actually click on it, and it'll give you further instructions on how to process certain documents, including this one. Okay, so if you have any issues with processing this document, then it's something that you can just click on that link, and it'll give you instructions on how to go through the process of printing that document, and if you have any issues, who to reach out to as well. And if you're approved, we are gonna require a $100 fee, a non-refundable fee, but it seems like a pretty good deal to me considering the average grant amount is over $25,000. So next slide, please. So again, these are some of the examples of nonprofits that have already benefit from the lease grant. Second Street new facility in Plainfield and Feeding Hands, they applied for this grant, and I'm sure that it's been a great help for them as well. Next slide, please. So our most popular grant, the Small Business Improvement Grant. So this one, keep in mind, this one is open for home-based businesses as well. Okay, this is the only one actually that is open for home-based businesses. Okay, and nonprofits. Okay, so this is like a reimbursement grant. So with this grant, you basically get back money that you already spent, right? And there's a 2-year look back. So if you have a brick and mortar location, you can dig out any invoice of eligible expenses going back as far as 2 years for any repairs, improvements, and the purchase of new, keyword new, furniture, fixtures, or equipment. Okay, so say that you have a brick and mortar location, maybe you needed to, do the floor, some plumbing, electrical work, change some windows, or so all those items, could be eligible for reimbursement. Okay, if you just have a home-based business and you have maybe a setup at home where you have your desk, your computer, iPad, printer, depending, whatever it is that you need to operate your business, and it's an eligible expense, then with this grant, you can then gather all those invoices and apply for this grant and request the state to reimburse you 50% of that, up to $50,000. Okay, so the minimum amount that you have to spend, having invoices and eligible invoices to apply is $5,000. That can be one or more, different projects or expenses, to get $2,500 back. But if you have $100,000 worth of eligible invoices, and you submit them, we process them, approve them, you get up to $50,000 back. Okay. If you own the property where you operate from, you don't have to worry about the landlord's permission. That's only if you lease. But we do have a landlord's permission form, which is basically an authorization form that the landlord has to sign. That basically lets us know that the landlord is aware that you're applying for this grant and that you are the one as a tenant who is going to benefit from this grant. There is also a time and a wage commitment for this one. So basically, if you receive less than $25,000, you have to commit to stay in that location for at least 2 years. And if you receive $25,000 or more, you have to commit to stay in that location for at least 4 years. Next slide, please. So with the lease grant, you can do one application per location under the same EIN. With the improvement grant, it doesn't matter where your business is located, right? The street level requirement is only for the lease grant. For this one, your business can be located anywhere. in New Jersey, but you can only do one application per EIN. So if you have multiple locations under the same EIN, you can include costs across all locations under one application. Okay, so keep that in mind. Also, this is a one-shot deal. You can only apply for this once per the lifetime of your EIN. All right, so I really do encourage you, if you're going to apply for this, try to get the maximum benefit from it. Okay. All right, so just to go through some of the list requirements. Again, you cannot be in any default with any other NJEDA or state assistance. Again, this is just something that we see in our system once we start processing your application. And the what we accept as a proof of payment, I consider we're pretty flexible. We just want to connect the dots to make sure that those are eligible expenses that are made by the business or nonprofit that is applying for this grant. Okay, so that's also something to keep in mind. Any invoice that you're going to submit for reimbursement has to be under the name of the business or nonprofit that is applying for the grant. Okay, sometimes we take money out of pocket, to pay for certain business expenses. If that's the case, you want to get reimbursed for an invoice that is not in the name of the business or nonprofit that's applying for the grant. Say that hypothetically speaking, I paid out of pocket from my own nonprofit, then my nonprofit would have to reimburse me first to then request the state to reimburse them. I hope that makes sense. Okay, but again, we hope we look for invoices that have the name of the business or nonprofit that is applying for the grant. But if that's not the case, there's a way out. Okay. And again, we accept checks. If it's something like you order on Amazon, that's perfect. It's got basically all the information we're looking for. Same thing with like Home Depot or Lowe's or any other store that has all the online information about the purchase in detail. And there's also a wage commitment for this one, right? So if you don't have any employees, this does not apply to you. Keep that in mind. Okay, this is only if you have employees. Okay, like employees on your WR30 or any part-time or full-time employees. But you are required to pay them once you are approved 120% of the minimum wage. All right, same deal as the lease grant. And for this resource as well, you do have to provide the business tax clearance certificate. And as I mentioned, this is something that you can process online if you don't have any issue with taxation. I believe you can do it in minutes. But regardless, we do give you instructions and guidance on how to do that. And with the improvement grant as well, there's a $100 non-refundable fee, but same deal with a lease grant. I believe the average grant is way over $25,000, so it seems like a great deal to me as well. So again, remember, folks, these are stackable resources. Okay, I don't know if you want to go to the next slide, Lakeisha. I just want to show a couple of more examples of nonprofits that have benefit from this. Again, the YMCA's have. This is not the only one that I've seen application for, you can see that they got reimbursed for construction of a tractor barn, installation of high notes. So it depending on what your business is, right? And if those expenses we can connect them to the operation of your business, should be eligible. Okay. And if you have any questions about eligibility, I'll put my information in the chat. Feel free to reach out to me. También hablo español, si también quieren hablar en español. So yes, again, remember, all these are stackable. These are currently open. Okay. And great resources. All right. I'll turn it back to Lakeisha. Thank you.
Thank you, Alberto. And so this is just showing here just some nonprofit organizations that did receive grants. Average grant size was about 28,000. So you see there's a ton of resources available for nonprofit organizations. And so now I'm just going to share with you some information about our Main Street Acquisition Support Grant. This is a closing cost reimbursement grant up to $50,000, and we launched this grant in October of 2024. And so this program will reimburse you for closing costs related to purchasing a commercial property in the state of New Jersey from which your nonprofit organization will operate from. Some key facts with this program, of course, that it is limited to one application per EIN for a maximum of one location. It's eligible again for nonprofits and for-profit entities in New Jersey. You can apply for this program. And your closing must have taken place after the application was launched to the public, which is back in October. So if you had a closing that took place from October, or you had one coming up, then you can apply for this program. Keep in mind the application date must not be any later than 1 year from the date of the closing, and you must meet the SBA definition of a small business, and this is going to be based on your NAICS code. Other key points would be is that your organization does need to occupy at least 1,000 square feet of the total usable square footage of the place. It must be devoted to your commercial use. And then this must be an arm's length transaction that has occurred with a conventional lender. So that could be the SBA, a community development financial institution, a minority depository institution, a bank, credit union, or if you did financing with the EDA directly, or any other state or county or city administrated loan with underwriting standards. Additional terms include that it's only for new purchases that are eligible for this program. The closing cannot be a refinance of an existing loan, and the property purchase cannot be for residential use only. Vacant land does not qualify. And just like how Alberto shared about the employee wage commitment, this program does also require that your employees must be paid 120% of the minimum wage. And then for tipped employees, they're required to be paid at 120% of minimum wage for tipped employees. With this grant, we do place a 5-year deed restriction on the property to restrict the property transfer. And there is a $500 fee that's due at the time of approval. And so you'll want to reference our website for additional terms and conditions for the Main Street Acquisition Support Grant. So in addition to grants, we do have loans available to help you as a resource for your nonprofit organization. And so one of the loan programs that we do have available is our New Jersey Capital Access Fund. This program provides funding up to $250,000. And so this is a working capital loan. It provides funding for operating expenses for eligible businesses and nonprofits in New Jersey. The applicant, of course, if you're looking to apply for this, you must have been in business for at least 1 year prior to the date of application. With this program, this doesn't require any specific collateral requirements. And so this program is available through support from our experienced nonprofit lenders. And so you can use this for operating expenses. It does have a fixed interest rate and flexible spending guidelines. So eligible uses for the New Jersey Capital Access Fund would include payroll, supplies, rent, utilities, marketing and advertising, other business expenses. And so the loan use does exclude equipment and machinery. And again, so if your nonprofit is looking to get additional capital, but then not provide a collateral, this would be a good fit for you. And then you must also have fewer than 50 employees, and your annual gross revenue must be 10 million or less. And then you must have been in, again, business operation for at least 1 year prior to the date. And you have to show the ability to repay. So any of the loan programs that I'll be going over, what's going to be very important is that your organization can demonstrate that you have the ability to repay the debt through your cash flow. So some additional terms for the New Jersey Capital Access Fund. The loan terms are between 36 and 60 months. You can borrow again up to $250,000. This program does have minimal fees. There is no minimum credit score requirement, and there are no prepayment penalties. So if you opt to pay this off a little earlier, that's totally fine. It does have a fixed and compatible interest rate for the life of the loan. And again, this program does not require any specific collateral, such as equipment or real estate. And with this program, the interest rate is going to be determined by the length of the loan, but it will not exceed 10.5% in interest. And so we have here available for you our website for the New Jersey Capital Access Fund.com to get additional information. And so here's an example of a nonprofit organization, New Beginnings. And so they're a nonprofit located in Camden, New Jersey. And this program, they were able to take advantage of the NJ Capital Access Fund. And so they provide refuge for disenfranchised community members. And so this $250,000 working capital loan was able to help them with their operating expenses. Next is our small business fund. So this funding program can go up to $500,000. And so what's going to be key for this is that with this program, again, you're going to need to be in business. You can't be, excuse me, for this program, you cannot be you have to be a business, excuse me, that it's either a nonprofit or business that has revenue up to 3 million. This does require collateral. So collateral has to be either equipment or real estate. And again, you need to be able to show that you have the ability to repay the debt. This program does have a $300 application fee, and then there is a zero point 0.5 commitment fee and a zero point 0.5 closing fee. These are, of course, are non-refundable. What's good about this program is that we can do financing up to 100% loan to value for real estate purchase, and then for equipment, it's going to be up to 90% loan to value. So this would be very helpful for you if you're looking to make a real estate purchase or an equipment purchase. With the amount that we're able to provide financing up to, it does help to minimize the amount of money that you're putting out of pocket. So eligible uses for this program would be real estate, equipment, payroll, supplies, rent, utilities, marketing and advertising, and of course, other business expenses. And so here's an example of a nonprofit organization, the Opportunity League of Burlington City. They were able to take advantage of our small business fund loan. And so they took out a loan with the EDA for 280,000. They purchased their new facility. And so they were able to take advantage of the small business fund. And this is where we talk about where the programs are stackable. So they utilized the small business fund. Then they were able to also apply for the Small Business Improvement Grant, and this was for furniture, fixtures, and equipment, and that was for $32,000 that they were able to get. And then what they were able also to apply for was our Main Street Acquisition Support Grant, and this was for them to get reimbursement for their closing costs when they purchased their new building in Burlington City. So this just shows you how your organization can take advantage of using financing with the EDA, also apply for multiple grants. And so that helps to put the cash back into your business to use for other future projects. And so now I'm going to turn it over to my colleague, Brian. He is a Senior Business Development Officer with the Business Banking Department.
Thank you, Lakeisha. I always love following Alberto and talking about the grants. I handle the loan side, so this funding needs to be repaid. So I'm not as popular as Alberto, but it is what it is. So the first product I want to go over is our direct loan. And this is a loan direct from the EDA. We provide funding up to $2 million. And again, just like some of the other programs, we require fixed assets, which includes real estate and equipment. This can be used up to, or we also offer $750 for working capital. Again, as long as we have collateral for that. And that could be used for operating expenses. You can purchase real estate with it or equipment. We like to see commitment to create or retain one full-time job for every $65,000 of NJEDA exposure within 2 years. What that means is if you have $650,000 funding from the EDA, is we'd like to see 10 full-time positions retained and or created within the next 2 years. Again, we would require the ability to repay the debt. So we're going to look at your financials over the last couple of years and determine whether or not the business can support the loan. We can go up to 100% loan to value for real estate and 90% for equipment. And this is for New Jersey-based businesses. And the idea with the EDA is all about jobs, creation and retention for jobs, good paying jobs in New Jersey. Next slide, please. Here's an example, New Grange School. They got a $2 million direct loan to purchase a property in Hopewell. This was in participation with First Bank. They provided the first loan and we provided $2 million. So we'll go into the Premier Lender Program a little later, but we like to work with banks where the bank may not be willing to fund the amount needed to make the purchase or whatever the needs may be for the loan or for the project. So we come in subordinate to the bank to help the project get complete, helps the borrower with, putting down less money. Next slide, please. The Premier Lender Fund, this is up to $2 million, again, for real estate or equipment, and up to $750 for working capital. And we do this with a partnership with the bank. This can be used just like the direct loan for real estate acquisition, equipment purchases, refinancing, working capital. The same commitment for $65,000 NJEDA funding for each for one job, and the ability to repay the debt. And again, the same condition of 100% loan to value and 90% for equipment. We also offer line of credit guarantees. So we work with our premier lenders in the event, working on one now where business is growing very quickly, and they need a larger line of credit. The bank wasn't comfortable in providing that line without our guarantee, so we step in and provide that guarantee up to 50% of the line. Next slide, please. This is a list of our premier lenders. These are banks located that do business in New Jersey. If your bank isn't on there, reach out to them, give them my contact information or any one of us at the NJEDA. We'd love to talk to them about becoming a premier lender. There's a lot of benefits to the bank and also their customers. Next slide, please. We also offer bond financing. These are for the larger projects, and they can be tax exempt for nonprofits and some manufacturers, but there's no cap on the dollar amount for 501c3 nonprofits. Bond financing offers longer terms, lower cost, and fixed or variable rates. The reason people or a borrower would want to go with bond financing, in the event it's a larger request, they're able to get financing that is, the income is tax exempt to the lender. So the lender therefore is able to offer a lower rate. So, that would benefit the borrower getting that lower rate. The offset is there's expense involved with bond counsel. So that's the reason why these projects need to be on the larger side to offset those costs incurred with the bond counsel. And this can be used for the land and building acquisition, new construction, equipment, refinancing, working capital. And it just has to meet the IRS code to qualify for the tax exempt bonding. And it has to use the NJEDA approved bond counsel, which we have a list on our website. Next slide, please. Here's an example of a $50 million bond we did for New Jersey Performing Arts Center in Newark. And we did this in partnership with a lender, I believe it was TD. And we were able to provide $50 million in this large project. So that's a success story there. Next slide, please. New Jersey Lend, this is a new program. I'm going to turn it back to Lakeisha, and she'll explain that.
Thank you, Brian, for sharing that great information. And so this will be our final loan program that we'll go over with you today, but we're excited. We just launched this program May 5th. And so this is what we call it NJ Lend, but it's our New Jersey Loan Expansion and Network Development Pilot Program. And so this program does provide funding up to $5 million. And so there's two ways in which you can access that funding up to $5 million. You can do that funding in partnership with our premier lender banks. And so that's the banks that Brian just went over. Or you can do the funding up to $5 million directly with the EDA. And so the funding can be used for operating expenses and or real estate equipment purchase. And then we also, with this program, we can now do a working capital line of credit guarantee up to $1 million. So with this program, again, still going to be required to do the commitment to creation or retention for one full-time job for every $65,000 of EDA exposure within the 2 years. So just as if you already have on board, let's say 150 employees, and you plan to retain those over the 2-year period, and you want to seek funding for a project up to $5 million, then you would very well be able to do that. You must be able to show the ability to repay the debt. And then again, as we mentioned with our other programs, for real estate, we can go up to 100% loan to value. And then for equipment, we can do 90% loan to value. And so again, that's going to really help to lower the amount of out-of-pocket costs for you when you're looking to do funding up to $5 million. Eligible uses would include landing and building acquisition, new construction and renovations, equipment purchases, debt refinancing, and working capital. So we've had a great deal of interest in this program, and we're excited to help as many nonprofits and businesses in New Jersey take advantage of it. Some additional terms with the NJLEND program include for eligible businesses, they must be operating and generating revenue expenses for at least 2 full years. And then we do require at least 50% of the personal guarantors. They must meet a minimum FICO score requirement of 700. Now, for nonprofit organizations, you must be operating and generating revenue and expenses for at least 3 full years, and we don't require personal guarantors. So, for this program, along with other lending programs that we mentioned, home-based businesses are not eligible. And then for the NJLEND program, you must not have more than 750 New Jersey employees. And so, if you want additional information, please be sure to reach out to us. We also have our website information here for the NJLEND program. And so I know it seems like a lot of programs, a lot of things that we went over today, but we try to keep it simple for you. For all of our programs, we do have a checklist. And so if you are interested in applying, we try to streamline this process for you, and that we have a checklist for each of our programs. This here is an example from our direct loan program. And so we outline for you what are the documents that we're going to need in order for you to be able to move forward, whether it's for grants or for loans. And so you can visit our website to see the additional checklists that we have for each of our programs. We also have our FAQs and program information. So I'm going to leave this screen here up for a moment so you can scan that QR code, and then you can save our website to your bookmark or favorites. All right. And then if you are ready to determine if you're ready to apply, if you're eligible, you want to learn more, we are available to help you for any of your new project or funding sources, whether you think it's loans or grants that you're interested in. For loans, you want to reach out to us via email at businessbanking@njeda.gov. And for grants, that's going to be our small business services at njeda.gov. Again, as we mentioned, the resources from today, this webinar, the presentation materials, it will be available on our website. And so here is our great team for our small business services. You'll have all the contact information for each one of the team members there. And you'll see that for the small business liaisons, it's segmented based on Central. Alberto, that you heard from today, he's statewide. And then we have Michelle that covers the northern part, and we have Jabari that covers South Jersey. And then here we have our business banking team. And so again, also segmented here as well. So we have Warren that covers South and Central. Brian that you heard from today, he covers South Jersey. We have Neil that covers North Jersey. Rick is statewide. And then you'll see there all of our contact information here. And so now what we're going to do is we are now going to allow for the opportunity for you to ask any questions. I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and let's see.
Lakeisha, could I jump in with one more thing?
Sure.
One more point of clarification. I just want to say, I know this has come up in many of my conversations in the, in the arts and culture universe, which is what I primarily inhabit. Some of the small business services programs are really useful. The e-commerce, Alberto, you have to help me with the names. The lease grant, the small business, the e-commerce, and the
improvement grant.
small business improvement grant. The information that's on the facing pages of this doesn't say this explicitly, but if you're an artist, and I'm telling this to you nonprofits who are working with lots of individual artists, if you are an artist and you have done the requisite, taken the requisite steps to form to form an official business entity like an LLC or a sole proprietorship. You can apply for those as an independent artist if you have services that you are selling, like you're offering workshops in your street level studio. There's an artist, for example, in Frenchtown, New Jersey, who got a small business improvement grant. This is just one example, who got a small business improvement grant to the tune of $11,000 because she needed to outfit this new space with walls and kilns and whatever. She sells classes, she sells pottery out of the space. So think of yourselves as small businesses if you're not already doing that, artists and nonprofit arts and culture folks. Please relay that information out to the constituents that you're working with.
Thank you for sharing that, Barb. All right, so we do have some questions that I see a ton of questions were answered. And so the first question I'm going to ask Brian if he can answer this. What are the average rates for our loan programs?
So depending on the project, typically, give you an example, buying real estate, say it's structured as a 5-20-25, or so we would use in that case a 5-year treasury, which currently is at 4%, just under 4%. From that, we can add a margin for credit risk up to 275. Now, in most cases, it's never that high. So it could be anywhere from 0 to 275, with maybe the average in 1.5. So you're looking in the 6% range on a commercial real estate deal right now, which compared to a traditional lender, they're probably going to be 7-8% for the same product. So there's an example, but it's very difficult to quote a rate without knowing the particular circumstances, the NICS code, their cash flow, the collateral available, and just the overall credit, the credit risk involved.
Thank you, Brian. All right, and we do have a couple of other questions. So the next question is around the presentation slides being emailed. Yes, we can, it'll be available on our website. And then also we do have the list of registrants. Is that something we can look into with marketing? Next question that we had, and it's really just asking if it's possible, rather than limiting application per EIN, that the grant requires a wait period of 1 or 2 years before submitting a second application. From there might be a cap of 2 or 3 years submitted from one EIN, particularly given that uncertainty of federal funding from other sources. These upcoming years will be challenging to maintain facility costs and account for improvement projects. So that's feedback that we can share with senior leadership as we are creating programs. We can share that feedback with senior leadership. Next question would be, can a church-based nonprofit apply for both the grant and any of the loans? And so I'll ask Alberto if he can speak to the grant piece, and then we'll just ask Brian if he can speak to the loan piece for our church organization.
So there is a religious affiliation form that you would need to fill out as part of the process, if that's the case. But because every application is different, I would suggest that that we set up a meeting so we can discuss, just to make sure that that I give you the correct answer. So I would have to just understand, different eligibility criteria just to see that you meet it, that you meet that criteria. But I put my information on the chat. So if you'd like, we can set up a call or a meeting, and we can go over to see if we can get you to be eligible for these grants. Okay.
Yeah, and similar to what Alberto is referring to with the grants, with the loans, we can lend to religious organizations. An example where it would be okay is if there's a community center that's open to the public. Not just the church members, that may be a reason where we could lend to the religious organization. But again, there's a questionnaire that we review just to make sure the purposes are meeting our eligibility requirements.
Thank you, Brian and Alberto. Next question that we have is regarding income for donations for a church, can they still apply? And so, just as both Brian and Alberto mentioned, if you'd like to learn more about applying and if you qualify, you can, both Brian and Alberto, they put their contact information in the chat. And then we also have our email address. We can schedule time for them to meet with you one-on-one just to learn more about your organization and get some additional information from you. There's also another question about for the lease, if there is amendment to it, does this mean that they still need to do the additional 250 square feet of space for like if they were to extend their lease? And then the second part of their question is, would it be within 12 months of the original lease or signing, or 12 months from the lease amendment? And so this would be for you, Alberto, for the lease improvement grant.
Right. So again, this grant is intended mostly for new leases. So if you want to apply with a renewed or an amended lease, that renewed or amended lease has to have the language basically, or has to state that you are adding at least 250 square feet of additional space to what you originally had on that original lease agreement. Okay. The second part of the question. So what we look at is when you signed the lease agreement. So from the date that you signed that lease agreement, that's when the 12-month clock starts. Okay.
Thank you, Alberto. Next question is for you, Brian. There's interest for the options for line of credit or working capital, but it seems like all of the line of credit require a larger direct loan. Can you just provide clarity around using a working capital line of credit option or a direct loan option?
Sure. The direct loan and the can be used for working capital. So in the event, because we don't have the ability to offer credit lines ourselves, now we can work with a participating bank and guarantee those lines. But if an applicant came in looking for working capital, we could possibly structure it as a term loan over 3 to 5 years, using fixed assets as collateral, real estate or equipment. And those funds can be used for expansion, for payroll, for operating expenses, or any other legitimate working capital needs.
Thank you, Brian. All right. And that does answer another question that we had come in around if the working capital can be used for cash flow, and it can cover things like Brian just mentioned for payroll and upcoming expenses that you may have for your business. So if you are interested in applying for working capital or any of the loan programs or grant programs, again, we'd be more than happy to help you. Next question would be regarding the Small Business Improvement Grant. Would ongoing projects interrupted by grant cancellation be eligible? For example, the portion of the project that was to be paid by the USDA base grant was canceled mid-project. Would project costs already paid out of pocket count as a part of the required 50%, or would a new project be required to be started? And so that would be for you, Alberto.
All right. So let me see if I understand. So when you apply for this grant, keep in mind that we are looking for any invoice. Basically, the fact that you have an invoice is that if you are requesting to get reimbursed for repairs or improvements, the work has to be completed by the time that you apply, or basically has to be paid by the time that you apply. The only exception to this would be if you're in a payment plan and you're basically keeping up with your payments. Okay, that's basically for like if you're purchasing equipment or stuff, or eligible equipment. Now the other part of the question was if you pay it out of pocket. So again, in the invoice, any invoice that you're going to submit, we're going to look for the name of the business or nonprofit that is applying for the grant to be in that invoice. Okay. If that's not the case, if you paid out of pocket, and to help out your business or nonprofit, your business nonprofit would have to reimburse you first right? Say that your business, gives you a check for the amount that for the invoice, and we would then required to see basically like a copy of the check and the bank statement. Okay, so we just want to connect the dots from that purchase to your nonprofit or your business.
Thank you, Alberto.
But again, if you want to, sorry, Lakeisha, if you want to like just dig a little further to see, if there's any other aspects of your eligibility you want to see, if you meet them, set up a meeting with me. I'd be glad to follow up. Okay.
Thank you. The other question we had is just getting assistance for bonds. And Brian did put his contact information in the chat. So, Brian, if you can put your information in there.
Yeah, I just added it. And
Thank
yet
you.
the best is to give me a call or email and I can go over. Like I said before, everything is every request is unique, so it's best to talk direct.
Okay, and I'm going to have you answer this next question, Brian. This is around if we have SBA loans to get an SBA improvement grant or nonprofits eligible for these grants. So if you can just speak to the loan part about us, just about our loans, and then we'll go back to Alberto for the grant part of it.
Okay. Yeah, our loan programs, again, we can do either direct or participate with a lender. SBA is, a separate organization, but similar to the SBA's 504 program, we could help with a loan subordinate to the primary lender, either a bank or whatever. We would come in second position.
Thank you, Brian. And then back over to you, Alberto. Reiterating again that about nonprofits being eligible to apply for your grant programs.
Correct. So as long as your business is a nonprofit who meets the eligibility criteria of being considered a small business under the SBA definition of small business, but if you have gotten an SBA loan before, that doesn't exclude you from applying for this grant. So you just have to meet the eligibility criteria, stated under each of these grants. The only way that you would not be able to apply for one of these grants is the improvement grant, if you have already benefited from it, because you can only apply for it once per the lifetime of your EIN, as I mentioned before. But if you haven't applied for these grants, or even if you have applied before and you've been denied, you can still apply again, as long as you have not benefited from them. Okay.
Thank you, Alberto. Two more questions for you. First question is, if a property is owned by a municipality but leased out to a nonprofit, would they be eligible to apply for the lease improvement grant?
So I'm trying to read here. So if the property is owned, so I would have to see if again, I would have to see the different aspects of that lease agreement to see if it qualifies under the 5-year lease term, the street level location, and we just have to dig into to what your nonprofit does and just have a conversation. This is something that I would again, I just stress out that a lot of the applications are different, just because of different types of businesses. So I would just have to look into to see your specific situation, to give you a correct answer. I wouldn't feel comfortable just saying that you would apply, you would be eligible without knowing other aspects of your or what your application would be.
Thank you, Alberto. And another question for you. Are there any veteran-owned nonprofit grants available? So just speak to how our programs are open for.
Right. So for these grants, if you are a veteran-owned business, a minority-owned business, a women-owned business, it's great that you have those certifications, but it doesn't. We don't look into that for these grants. We're basically looking that you meet the eligibility criteria of meeting the definition of a small business or the nonprofit. But that's great that that you have that certification. That does open up a lot of doors for different types of funding, especially on the federal level. If you're interested in looking to see if there's any resources that you might be eligible for, we can set up a call and I can try to help you find something that you can benefit from as well.
Thank you, Alberto. Any other questions? We've answered the questions that we had that were open. So just want to see if there's any additional questions. Thank you. We're glad that you enjoyed this. So at this time, if there's no additional questions, I am going to turn it back over to Barbara to close us out.
Thanks so much for coming. I hope that this was useful. Again, I mean, these guys have offered their contact information. I would like to point everybody in particular to the Small Business Services page on our website. It's at the end of the slideshow, because there you will see all of the products that got talked about today. There you'll see the links to all of the product pages that got talked about. On each of those landing pages, the deck from today will be posted, so you'll have that as a resource, and then you can reach out to Alberto, Brian, Lakeisha specifically with questions about the specific programs that they each they each hold expertise in. Reach out to me as well if you have more general questions. I'll put my information in the chat right now. Not in the chat. Again, look for upcoming webinars addressing these products. We are hoping to partner with the New Jersey Center for Nonprofits to do another iteration of this. And in addition to that, I expect that we'll be doing subsequent webinars where we maybe focus specifically on just the small business services products for nonprofits, for the arts and culture sector, just the loans and so on. So this was the first one of many, I think, and it's a really good overview. So rah, 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 go out there, keep fighting. It's a tough time for nonprofits. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.